the Agartala City Urban Development Project, the Aizawl Sustainable Urban Transport Project, Sikkim Major District Roads Upgradation Project, Tripura Urban and Tourism Development Project, Assam Power Sector Investment Program, Meghalaya Power Distribution Sector Improvement Project, Northeastern Regional Capital Cities Development Investment Program, Kohima Nagaland, Assam Skill University Program. These are only some of the projects that have been supported by the Asian Development Bank in the Northeast. Want to see the full list of all the projects they support and finance in India? We have shared a link in the description. But have you noticed one thing? There are no projects from Arunachal Pradesh. Why? In this week's episode of Decoded, we look at why the Asian Development Bank has no love for India's easternmost state. To understand the issue better, I suggest you watch the video till the end. I am Rifa Deka and you are watching Decoded.
For months.
The village of Assam
in the 75th Independence Day.
Arunachal Pradesh does not exist for Asian Development Bank. But why? On April 5, 2021, the country director of Asian Development Bank, Takeo Konishi, wrote a letter to Dr. Guru Prasad Mohapatra, who is the Secretary Department for Promotion of Industry and Industrial Trade, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. The subject line was Northeast Economic Corridor Study, workshop with government stakeholders. Konishi's letter referred to DEA's letter conveying no objection to organize workshops in consultation with relevant line ministries on an ADB study on the development of the Northeast Economic Corridor. The letter also, at least in brief, gives a valuable background to the study. Its findings mention the need for a multimodal transport network at least 3 levels within the Northeast region, between the Northeast region and the rest of India, with an additional way of connectivity through Bangladesh and with the neighboring countries, Bangladesh, Bhutan and Myanmar, to enhance South Asia, Southeast Asia connectivity. The findings for the study pay attention to economic upliftment and equitable development of the individual NER states and the region. The study has identified 24 growth centers and 20 border centers that will drive the development of the states based on their potential. Why is this important? Hold on, we're getting there. Because it seems that throughout the letter, the discussions and the findings, the tiny matter of Arunachal Pradesh skipped everyone's attention. There is absolutely no mention of India's frontier state as if it remains the territorial dispute that China has always claimed it to be. In fact, it is well known that China refuses to acknowledge Arunachal Pradesh as Indian territory and the state-sponsored media refers to it as South Tibet. And while the ADB is doing great work across India, and you can read about all their projects here, it seems it is too happy to toe the China line and act as if Arunachal Pradesh does not exist, not at least as a part of India. To understand this issue, let us rewind to 2009 when Dr. Manmohan Singh was still the Prime Minister, India was yet to win the World Cup and WhatsApp University had not yet been established. Now, to say that India-China relations have been frosty in the past is to state the obvious. The two countries have been at war and have never featured on the top of the best neighbor list, if such a list at all exists. We trade in billions of dollars, we travel to each other's countries, we eat each other's cuisines even though we think that Gobi Manchurian qualifies as Chinese cuisine, and every once in a while we reiterate our commitment to solving our problems. But just utter the words Arunachal Pradesh and agencies like Asian Development Bank start squirming and shifting in their chair like they're uncomfortable but too polite to stand up. In 2009, China reportedly blocked a consensus at the ADB board meeting, which approved an India plan that included $60 million watershed projects for the northeastern state. Subsequently, in July that year, the then Foreign Minister of India, S.M. Krishna, had said, and I quote, China did not endorse the Country Partnership Strategy 2009-12 for India in the Board of Asian Development Bank on the ground that the proposed India CPS involved technical assistance funding for the flood and river erosion management project in Arunachal Pradesh, which China claims is its territory. China's objection on the political grounds is a clear violation of the ADB's charter, which prohibits the bank from evaluating any proposal on grounds other than economic, unquote. In short, China objected, India tried to convince the ADB backed out, and Arunachal Pradesh paid the price. And it continues to do so. Such was ADB's fear of China that a 2011 report in The Hindu said the ADB acknowledged it was a mistake, according to newly released cables from United States Embassy in Beijing by WikiLeaks. ADB China's country director Robert Whitall told US officials in September 2009 that the project in Arunachal, which China had objected to, had caused problems for ADB in China. And even as Indian diplomats in Beijing told US officials the same month they believed the project was still alive with modalities being worked out by the ADB, bank officials in Manila had assured Beijing the project would not materialize. Mr. Whitall was quoted as saying, The Hindu report said, "It is 2021 and even now ADB's stance has not changed. We emailed a questionnaire to ADB asking a range of questions nearly 2 days ago, but the bank has not responded." Arunachal Pradesh is home to many wonders, but developed it is not. According to a 2017 SBI report, Arunachal is 15th among all states on the state-wise Human Development Index list. The state's average literacy rate is around 65% as per the 2011 census. The roads in Arunachal Pradesh are so bad that as early as March 2021, State Chief Minister Pema Khandu became the first ever CM to reach Vijayanagar, the last administrative headquarters near the Myanmar border in Changlang district, by road. He covered 157 kilometers in 2 days in an off-road vehicle. The most endearing image was that of the CM himself trying to somehow navigate through what looks like a road but could very well be a stream. Arunachal Pradesh, just like every other northeastern state, could do with international aid. And oh, remember the 2009 objection? It was not because ADB was sponsoring state-of-the-art radar systems for India's military, it was over a watershed project. And it turned out to be a watershed moment. See what we did there? In November 2018, Khandu had pointed out China was objecting to foreign funding from international financial institutions, which in turn is taking a toll on its economy. Khandu said, and I quote, "Arunachal is the lone state facing such a fund blockade, which is taking a toll on its economy, but it can be overcome by taking advantage of the huge presence of Indian armed forces and central paramilitary forces in the state. The state has the presence of over 2 lakh military personnel and paramilitary forces, which can be thought of as a huge market for selling local produce and goods," unquote. The fact that no other northeastern state has to face this problem shows how tough it can be for administrators in Arunachal. Now let's compare what China is building on the other side of the Arunachal border. Earlier this year, reports surfaced that China was settling villages not only across the Arunachal border but inside Arunachal. The Ministry of External Affairs said that they were keeping an eye on the events. When such reports emerged, China responded by saying, and I quote, "Its construction of a village across the line of actual control in Arunachal was beyond reproach because it had never recognized Arunachal," unquote. This is neither an isolated event nor the last of its kind. In fact, one could argue that a village is the least of its worries, since just a few months later, reports emerged that China had in fact approved the controversial hydropower project on the Brahmaputra River in Tibet, close to the Arunachal Pradesh border, over which India has raised concerns. While India and Arunachal Pradesh struggle to build roads, China's investment on the other side of the border knows no end. We are no military experts, of course, but at this moment, the Indian side of the border could be a wee bit underprepared for any hostility compared to the Chinese side. But why to blame the ADB, one might say? Well, for one, they have clearly sided with the Chinese government despite agreeing on principle with the Indian government. By not investing in Arunachal all these years, they have denied India and residents of Arunachal a chance at a better life. While the rest of the Northeast receives the advantages of investments, the people of Arunachal can only sit back and wonder what could have been.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to EastMojo. For any queries, put them down in the comments section below and press on the bell icon for notifications.